And so we wound up getting a bunch. And so we smoked it. And it was garbage. And from what I understand, the elements that were in that stuff that I smoked has only gotten more potent, which has become, a bigger and bigger problem.
More dangerous. And to be clear, this is at a time when there were no laws. There were no laws regarding synthetic weed.
Yeah, what was the stuff?
They've just started to put in place laws against them. Anyway, we got an email about it in the show today.
Yeah, there was a thing. Oh God, I can't remember it now. But it was definitely one of those, like, people were hysterical about it, and like there were all these YouTube videos of people like freaking out on it.
That rings a bell, actually. Like I might have known about that and just forgot it.
Yeah, someone's gonna know it in the chat.
I need control.
Oh yeah, you're a control freak. Also, it's your job. There you go. So I'm going to be at BayCon tomorrow. So Zoe brings bacon, but I'll bring bacon.
You'll be at BayCon.
That's a chat room joke, if you don't get it. And TVC God anticipates me.
In contributions that I can have to the show that don't involve me admitting crimes, Phil Meeks tweeted a picture of a Colonel Sanders impersonator.
Yeah.
That he got the card for. And it totally explains the fact that I was in Orlando at a cigar bar and why there was a Colonel Sanders literally just sitting at the bar, not part of a promotion, just Colonel Sanders by himself drinking and smoking cigars, which was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And now I have a reason as to why it was happening.
All right. We are ready to go. Are you ready, sir?
Let's go.
3, 2, 1.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by listeners just like me and you, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, May 25th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Justin Robert Young in the house. Was in his house. I'm in my house. You're in your house. Or maybe you're at work. I don't know. How's it going, everybody?
Probably driving. If you're driving
Might
right
be driving.
now, both hands in the air. Just kidding. Don't do that. That's illegal.
Both hands in the air like you just don't care about safety or the law.
Yeah. This was a trick. You're being arrested.
Speaking of being arrested, we're going to talk about spice later on in the show. The drug.
It must flow.
Yeah, it must flow. It's a fan mail Thursday, which I know we figured out a name for, and I can't remember what it is.
Mail junction, and where are the mayors?
Yes, exactly. We've got an Egyptian speaker who answered our call for an interpretation of the new proposed laws about social media in Egypt. That's coming up. We got the spice email. We got someone in the ad industry with an analysis of Google attribution and what he would rather have instead. Let's start with a few tech things you should know about. Gogoro has a faster and longer range version of its electric scooter that has a more efficient motor with a more classic scooter look. The Gogoro 2 will go on sale this summer in Taiwan for 38,800 new Taiwanese dollars. That's about 1,295 US.
Looks pretty slick.
I know, it's got that classic look. I kind of want it.
Yeah, also they have an expanded battery swap system, which I wonder if that's something that could make its way to the United States.
That's the key.
Starting May 31st, T-Mobile USA will let customers assign their own phone number to up to 5 phones or other portable devices. Customers can also assign up to 5 phone numbers for a single device and purchase temporary numbers for use in things like Craigslist postings.
Disposable numbers. I like it. I like it. I don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm a T-Mobile USA customer, but...
Yeah, the idea of getting a burner phone number, you can do that on apps and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's fairly easy to do. Doing it through T-Mobile is interesting, but it kind of makes you, this is my but this is one of my weird theories, that phone numbers and specifically the area codes are becoming our modern day heraldry, that like I will forever have a 954 number, and so I'll be known as being from Broward County, Florida.
It'll follow you throughout your life. I'm 415. I wish I was 618, but I'm 415. That's just where I was when I got that phone.
It's because you sold out your homeland.
Eugene Kaspersky offered to testify to let U.S. authorities examine his source code and more after some U.S. authorities stopped using Kaspersky security software because it's a Russian company.
So, worth talking about because Kaspersky within the security community has a fairly sterling reputation. Eugene Kaspersky is somebody that is well regarded as an expert in his field. To me, I have no proof on any of this. It just feels like somebody else wants a contract and somebody else wants influence within
whispering in some ears. You know,
I mean,
I'm not saying there's any problem with a Russian company, but you know, wink, wink.
Doesn't Eugene Kaspersky look tired? AlphaGo beat Chinese Go master Qi Ji for the second time Thursday, clinching a win in the best-of-3 series. After the game, Qi said last year, I think the way AlphaGo played was pretty close to human beings, but today, I think he plays like the god of Go.
You can't spell Go without the first 2 letters of God.
This is fairly amazing just because, you know, it wasn't but a year and a half ago that a lot of this stuff was thought to be impossible, right?
Go was thought to be too complex. It would require too much intuition. Now, we got some emails from folks who are saying, yeah, but the thing about Go is you don't always play to win. You play for the enjoyment of the game. And how can an AI enjoy the game? Like, you know, and so that alone right there shows me that we've made an advance. We've made an advance from saying, like, let's talk about what AIs or whether AIs are smart enough to be like, yeah, but are they really sentient? Are they really people? Like this conversation is moving along in a very interesting direction. Now, here are some more top stories. Sources tell Reuters Facebook has signed deals with Vox Media, BuzzFeed, ATTN, Group 9 Media, and others to make original video shows. A new video service from Facebook would have long and short form content supported by ad breaks. Facebook could take a cut of those. Scripted shows would run 20 to 30 minutes, and unscripted shows range between 5 and 10 minutes long. And Facebook is, according to this Reuters story, paying up to $250,000 for the longer shows and between $10,000 and $35,000 for the shorter episodes. Shows would premiere exclusively on Facebook, but then after a period of time, the creators would own the content and be able to show it on their own sites.
So Facebook is paying for the creation of long-form content that after a window, players can take wherever they want, or the creators can take wherever they want to their own home sites.
Exactly. They are doing what YouTube did when they paid for channels, when they subsidized channels to kind of boost them off the ground. We actually talked about this on your live stream on Twitch today. A lot of people still view that as a failure, and there's perfectly good reasons to do so. But I don't think YouTube does. YouTube looked at it with different goals than we as viewers did. YouTube said, will this get people to understand what channels can do? Will it increase views? And it did those things.
Also, at the time, YouTube was facing the Viacom lawsuit. They were, as they always will be, chasing away a history of being the place where pirated content is distributed throughout the world. And so the idea of funding original programming was very attractive to them. The play here is the fact that the highest ad rates go for video. So they want what YouTube now wants, which is all their content to be longer so they can put more advertising inside of it.
And $250,000 sounds like a lot, and it's certainly something to make a pretty decent show out of, but that ain't House of Cards money. You're not getting Orange is the New Black or Westworld out of this.
Oh, certainly no. But to be fair, that is the top end of where we are at in terms of television budget. So $250,000 is nothing to scoff at, especially if it only comes with the idea that you have to debut it within this certain window, and then you can still go air it on your own site, on YouTube and everywhere else.
Per episode, you're talking something like a Discovery Channel level promotion. You know, serious production, but not like super high end.
No. Politico reports Apple has named New York Magazine's Lauren Kern as editor-in-chief of Apple News. Mac Rumor points out Eddie Q has previously said that Apple wants a veteran news source to make sure that they wants to vet news sources to make sure that they are legitimate. Apple News is a curated service pulling from leading news sources. Tom, this is the first editor-in-chief that Apple News will ever have claimed as their own.
Yes.
Do you believe that this is the first step toward them building up their own news gathering and writing organization?
I could see it both ways. I really can. I mean, on the one side, why not? With Facebook paying money to people to create content for video, Apple wants to be, seen as a place that has high quality news, or they wouldn't be pouring all this money. They wouldn't have changed the newsstand to Apple News. They wouldn't have put their name on it. Why not do a little original reporting to get people in there, to get people in the fence? They may still want the bulk of the content in Apple News to be provided by outside sources, but sure, why not get some journalism in there? On the other hand, Apple is perfectly happy throwing money at people just to do the bare minimum, just to do the curation, and they could still make the same. They could make the same pitch of like, if you want to avoid fake news, if you want to avoid bad waste of time clickbait headlines, use Apple News because we have these top journalists, former New York Times Magazine and New York Magazine editor-in-chief, making sure that only the good stuff gets to Apple News.
To me, it's 100% chance that they start hiring reporters.
Well, they have hired reporters. Like Chris Breen is there. There's a bunch of reporters that went there into a black hole. We assume this is what they were hired to start working on. Does seem like a waste to have all those names, right? And not have them writing stuff.
Specifically because Apple doesn't care where everything comes from. They want you to trust Apple News. And so they're happy that they can credit these other sources when they are the other stories, but they want to treat the rest of the news media like their AP, like their Reuters. Here are stories that we can plug into what we would consider to be our newspaper front page. But you know what newspaper front pages also have? Original reporting. And especially for stuff like politics and business and technology, it's very, very easy to just hire people to write it yourself.
Now, maybe this is my radio roots showing, but Shane in our chat room, irc.chatroom.net, says, I could see them having a news version of Beats One radio. What if it was not creating long-form journalism? What if it was just curating the news and then doing the rip and read? You want more details on the story, be sure to open your Apple News app and get that Washington Post story.
Interesting. Like they would do their own 10-10 win.
Yeah. I mean, they're going after print people. You'd think they'd be going after more radio people if that was the case, but still.
Well, as ESPN has shown us, there is a rich well of newspaper people that you can train to speak on television and radio.
For sure. Yeah. Microsoft changing the name of its live streaming service. It used to be called Beam. Now it will be called Mixer. Mixer is also getting some new features along with the new name. Co-streaming for up to 4 streamers. In fact, you can even make it so your friends can just join in on your stream if they see that you're streaming. Broadcasting apps are coming to iOS and Android. They're in beta, but they will eventually be able to stream gameplay from your mobile phone. So people on an Xbox One can watch you out and about in the world, maybe even playing Clash of Clans or something. And a new guide is coming to the Xbox One version of the Mixer app. It'll be called Channel 1. The idea is to make it easier to find streams of the kinds of things you're looking for.
Microsoft obviously sees the fact that live video is exploding on every possible front, but maybe the biggest is Twitch, which was purchased by the fellow Pacific Northwestern powerhouse Amazon, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
The company that has Xbox and Microsoft under their corporate umbrella really cannot afford to sit out the live video streaming revolution. I think that it is a necessity for them to play in this space, even if it's just as an easy way to play second fiddle to somebody like Twitch in terms of the video game space. There's enough people there that can be successful for them, considering they can build in the hooks into their native game and device. Yet at the same time, I don't know if this really gives anybody who wants to take the time to stream themselves playing video games, which can be time consuming, any other tools. Why do you want to commit to this platform right now?
I mean, on the one hand, it's almost risk-free for Microsoft to do this. They have all of the parts to make this happen. With I don't mean to belittle the effort, but it's way easier for Microsoft to do this than, say, Justin Can to have started Justin TV, right? Like they've already got powerful cloud servers and video experts and all this stuff. So they're at an advantage. Why wouldn't you do it? And then why you would use it would be you're on the Xbox One and it's right front and center. You can start it up. Maybe you don't realize how to use Twitch exactly. And you're like, well, hey, this is right here. I'm an Xbox One fan. And I see my friends streaming on Mixer all the time in my feed on the Xbox One. So I know they're going to see it. Maybe I'll reach more people. It's a toes in the water for everybody. Microsoft gets to put a toe in the water of live streaming beyond just gaming, right? By putting these apps out there. Fans of the Xbox get to put a toe in the water of streaming without dedicating themselves to the full Twitch universe. They could stay in their little safe Xbox One universe that they're more familiar with. So yeah, it may not be a success for any of them, but I can see why people might want to try it out.
It's 100% failure if they don't try. I totally agree with you there. I don't know exactly how much of the market share they're going to get, but you probably shouldn't trust my opinion on the success of Mixer because my wife works for Twitch. The American Customer Satisfaction Index released results on its own surveys on smartphone brands. The iPhone SE topped the list, followed by a tie between the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus. Motorola was the top non-Samsung or Apple phone on the list at number 21 with
they
the
didn't
Moto
make the top
G.
20. Yeah.
So
the Galaxy Grand Prime is number 20, just for reference in customer satisfaction.
I don't even know what that phone is.
Me either.
Is that only distributed to prime ministers?
Yes, and grandmasters. That's it.
Just what a picture of dominance 10 years in to the iPhone experience. And of course, subsequently, Android having the tremendous success that it has experienced, that there are two brands, apparently, that people like the best. And it's not anything but those. It's not anything but iPhones and Galaxies or Samsungs, which is kind of shocking considering in our world, especially with Android, it's the, super clean, non-bloatware Google Pixels of the world that tend to get a lot of the unrestrained praise.
Right. HTC has gotten a lot of praise. I think a lot of phone reviewers look for subtle differences that set things apart, and that's why they give those praises to those phones. Those subtle differences are lost on a lot of people. And again, we're not talking about market share. We're not talking about what people are buying. We're talking about satisfaction. I like this phone and I'm satisfied with it. The iPhone SE is the bargain phone. People are like, I didn't have to spend an arm and a leg on it. I didn't have to wait in line to get it. And it does everything I want. I think it's interesting too. If you look at the top 10, it's a lot of pluses. Yes, the SE is at the top, but then the Edge Plus, the 7 Plus, the 6 Plus, the 6S Plus, there's the larger phones seem to get a little bit higher satisfaction than others.
Because everybody wants that big, beautiful, gorgeous screen while they use the same data that they already pay for their phone. I think that is a paradigm that is as clear as day to me, that we don't want to pay for separate data. We already feel like we pay too much for data, and we want to watch our movies and our Netflix right there on our big, gigantic shield of a phone.
And as we are, at least in the US anyway, as we are an Android and iOS operating system world, we're a Samsung and Apple phone world. Yeah, there's lots of other phones to choose from out there. And for good or ill, people just aren't satisfied with them.
That I am shocked. I'm actually surprised that not one of those clean install Android phones. I'm not an Android user, so I don't.
Sure.
I can't speak to it. But certainly, if you would have asked me that one of those kinds of phones would have cracked the top 20, I would have bet a lot of money on it.
Let's go to the other aging market, PCs. Lenovo returned to profitability, earning 97 cents a share in Q4 on revenue of $9.58 billion, just a shade under what analysts had expected at $9.6 billion. PC shipments, which represented 70% of Lenovo's revenue, declined 1%. That's a small decline and more than half the decline of the overall PC market, which declined 2.4% in the same period. Lenovo increased its overall PC market share to 21.4% in the quarter. Lenovo's overall losses came from its data center and mobility divisions, Motorola, losing $566 million in the data center sector and $343 million in mobility. Lenovo working hard to get into smart speakers and all kinds of other sectors. Right now, top of a declining heap.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm still getting over the fact that you referred to the PC market very obviously, but also the smartphone market as aging, which just made me want to die immediately and be buried under a pile of fidget spinners. Lenovo.
Remember fidget spinners? It takes me right back to the teens when I think.
Oh, sure. Lenovo. They are, who said you can't make money in PCs these days, right? All these other, like you mentioned before, with Mixer being Microsoft's toe in the water for live video, certainly these other declining divisions are their toes in the water to what we all imagine to be the future of these companies. And yet they're coughing up cash, and turns out they can sell a good PC for a profit in 2017. Cheers to you, Lenovo.
Yeah, somebody had to be able to do it. It's just not everybody that can do it. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Huge help in making the show. Get in there and vote. It's Fan Mail Thursday. Or wait a minute. W. Scott has, I think, cracked it. It was Your Thoughts Thursday. Huh? Maybe? I don't know. Let's start with one from an anonymous person in the advertising industry who wrote and had a nice email talking about how companies that sell 95% of their products offline have no way to know if digital advertising is effective. Not no way, but it's very difficult. If you sell, let's say, yogurt, right? You're maybe selling some of that on Amazon Fresh or something, but most of your yogurt is sold offline. One way to get around this problem is to A/B test. So you can target the millennials with your yogurt commercials and then exclude the olds, like no 34 to 50s. They're not going to get any of our yogurt commercials, and then see if that affects the numbers, right? A grateful patron writes, attribution, Google Attribution's modeling is a bit different. It tries to capture a history of as many variables as possible and correlates it to historical observed purchases. Problem is, you can never capture all relevant variables, and even if you did, say in a minority report kind of world, nothing guarantees that an attribution model as sophisticated as Google's will be able to disentangle correlation from causation. My big question is, why doesn't Google and the other digital platforms, GAFAM, put in place transparent A/B testing platforms instead of this complex and untrustworthy, albeit sophisticated, attribution black box? Maybe it is because every single randomized experiment we've been able to run has extremely low impact on offline sales, or maybe there are other reasons that still elude the advertiser community.
I got guesses.
What's your guess? What's your best guess, Justin?
Number one, the history of the internet has long also mirrored the history of advertisers and businesses not understanding the internet and being fearful of it.
Sure.
And to the advertising solutions that they have known to work since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. Even the upfronts that just happened for television networks. The common refrain, no matter whether they be broadcast television or cable television, was all Don't spend money on digital. Look at how Facebook has misreported numbers. Look at how unreliable it is. Just stay with your old pop-up broadcast television. That's where you should be spending your dollars, Clorox. So if you are digital advertising and you are obviously exploding, you kind of know now that the tide is moving towards you. The idea becomes prove to those that still don't believe that this is scientific. And in fact, you can do the thing that television and print media and every other legacy of media can't. You can show the results, or you can show the process of how we got this ad in front of exactly the right person. So the more Rube Goldbergy, the more, and this is where the second part of my guess comes in, the more brandable and specific they can be per platform, the more Google knows they're going to win the war against legacy media. Now Google is looking at, how do we beat Facebook? How do we beat the next big digital media challenger, as now all that money comes toward us and we fight amongst each other? Google wants to show that they've got the recipe and it's secret to them, and that's why you need to show it. Will it be more effective? Probably not. But when has that mattered in advertising?
Well, and this grateful patron is saying, like, I'm seeing through your snake oil. Like, there ain't nothing there. And I think that is a fair perspective right now. Theoretically, though, and I've been saying this since I worked for techtv.com and zdtv.com back in the day, putting an ad up on a web page and not forget about clicking, right? And just saying, here's our product, go try it, shouldn't be any different than putting an ad in a magazine.
Yeah.
Because you can't click on the magazine. You can't set a cookie on a person who's reading a magazine. The same appeal, the same ability to track should work in both ways. And in fact, the web should be better because you can tell a little bit more about the person reading it. The problem is digital advertising isn't yet in the same mind space for people. So we don't have big glossy photos that really capture your attention on the web. That's why people try to do page takeovers. All it does is annoy people. It actually drives them the other way. You don't have beautiful video of how delicious your yogurt looks because we didn't really have high definition video advertising. But that's why Facebook's trying to make original video, right? Because they want to take advantage of that. We're moving towards digital being able to appeal to the people who see the ads at the same level that television and magazines have in the past. But we're not there yet. And until that all plays out, then I kind of on the side of our grateful patron here.
Oh, I totally agree with him. I don't think that this will be, well, I'll say this. I do think that it is more scientific than what we've seen before, which is basically the old, scattershot model of, I'll put it in a popular thing and a lot of people watch it. I know what the ratings are. That means that we got in front of X amount of people. But I remember when I used to run the advertising on our magic blog, itricks.com, it was the constant fight. I could show, no matter how many times I would show people that wanted to buy advertising, how many more people viewed this than in the leading magazines in the space. And that's their announced circulation, not counting for how many just end up on doorstops that never get read. How many are put somewhere else that just are totally inflated circulation numbers. I could say every day, imagine if your ad got in front of what they promise you every single day. I don't get it. I'll just spend the money on Genie Magazine.
Yeah. Also, TV Zegon points out you can set a cookie on a person. It would just most likely fall off or be eaten.
Hi, Roger, Tom, and Justin Robert Young. On show 3037 writes Apostle of Broadband, Rico, the Apostle of Broadband Jesus. Rich from lovely Cleveland shared the news about Blockstack's peer-to-peer internet. Of course, there are others out there, but worth adding to the list is zeronet.io. You can download and run a small program in the background, and then you can use the normal browser to surf the net and ZeroNet.io's network. It's a very cool idea. Torrent Freaks podcast, Steal This Show, season 2, episode 1, has a great interview with the developer and founder, Thomas Koskis.
So, yeah, A lot of minds working really hard on distributed internet. And the more that we see controversy over things like net neutrality, the more motivated these people are going to be. So I would keep an eye on it. That's good to know. Hey, Tom, Roger, and guest. I just listened to episode 3033 where you talked about the Egyptian proposed bill that, if passed, would force social media users to register their account with the authorities. You asked if any listeners who speak Egyptian could send you a translation of the bill. So here I am, your Egyptian reporter reporting for duty. Here is a summary of the bill. A social network can be any communication medium from Facebook to WhatsApp. The law, in theory, applies to any person within Egypt, Egyptians and foreigners alike. Punishments range from suspension of internet service to 6 months imprisonment. Since the bill was proposed, it has been sent to the Communications Committee of the House of Representatives, the lower house of the Parliament, to discuss its technical feasibility. And our intrepid Shady from rainy Calgary has a longer translation of the various parts and articles that we'll put in our show notes at dailytechnewsshow.com if you want to see. But each person within Egypt who is using a form of social network without obtaining a license from the designated authority in accordance with the regulations of this act or the subsequent regulations issued by the regulating body, the Ministry of Interior, will bring charges against such individual, and the prosecutor shall present the charges to an urgent trial.
I don't know enough about Egyptian law making to know whether or not this is something that will be put into place. It obviously, at first blush, seems like a real surefire way to create paperwork and crackdowns.
And a social network in this law means any communication software application powered by the internet and used for communication between people. So that would be Gmail.
Yeah.
At that point, right?
Well, I mean, because I'm sure they're not being sophisticated in terms of drawing a line between application and web application, right?
Yeah. Well, Gmail is an app on my phone.
It is true. Tom, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't like this law. I think it's counter purpose to an open and free society.
And Egypt is really cracking down on the internet right now. Egypt just blocked several Qatar-linked online publications, including Al Jazeera, Huffington Post Arabic, Qatari news agency. The country says that the publications are fabricating news and inciting terrorism. So it is a extremely conservative attitude towards internet and media right now in Egypt. But thank you to Shady from Calgary for looking into that and translating for us. Really appreciate that.
Mike writes, hello, Tom and guests. I was listening to the pre-show for episode 3037. So I'm going to add editorially, everybody, go listen to the pre-show because apparently some really hot stuff is happening. I admitted to a crime earlier. Moving on. Where you all were speculating about synthetic marijuana. Being a cop, I figured I'd give you a little information about it. Here in my area, it goes by the street names K2 or Spice. It is popular among transient and homeless populations because it's pretty inexpensive. When it first came to market, it was quasi-legal, which made buying it in shady corner stores very easy. Usually, one package can be split up into a couple different servings and then resold. A couple months ago, we had a mini epidemic of people using it and literally passing out wherever they smoked it, often along sidewalks, parking lots, or other places. Concerned citizens would call for medical, which trained their fire department, which ended up transporting people to the hospital all day long. The synthetic nature and low quality control during production makes this stuff extra dangerous, as you can never really be sure what you're smoking. Please pass this along to the gang if you're still curious.
Thank you, Officer Mike. Mike's been writing in for a couple of years now to DTNS from time to time, so appreciate you sharing the information there. And if you want that full pre-show discussion that we're talking about, that was in yesterday's Patreon version of the show. So either become a patron and you get access to the RSS feed that has that pre-show in it, or talk to your friendly local Patreon supporter and see if they can help you out. Thank you, Mike.
By the way, one little fun fact about synthetic marijuana: it's not only transient and homeless people that have taken to it. There have been a couple incidents with, off the top of my head, I can only think of football players, but I'm sure it's athletes of all stripes that have marijuana banned in their as part of the terms of their employment that have also wound up getting themselves into trouble because, again, a lot of this stuff is, it's not like the FDA is looking over somebody's shoulder, mixing this stuff up. So be careful, kids.
Hey, thank you, Justin Robert Young, for joining us as always. What you got going on?
Bunch of stuff. Let's just start here. The Contender, the Game of Presidential Debate. Tomorrow, we are putting on sale our first mini expansion that takes quotes from the first 100 plus days of the Trump administration. We got quotes from everybody: Sean Spicer, James Comey, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and somebody who possibly jokingly, but still went out on television and said he's running for president. He is the trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, jabroni-beating, pie-eating, possibly liberal-thinking, well, I guess if it's either him or Trump compromising, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You can get it all in Heavy Lies the Crown. That is the new Contender expansion on sale tomorrow on thecontender.us for only $10.
Johnson Hanks? I don't know.
Yeah.
Check it out, folks. Also, thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get from the show, including many, many people at patreon.com/DTNS. One of the things I do for people who give $5 a month, which, by the way, is 25 cents a show. You're dropping a quarter on the show at $5 a month. You get a weekly column delivered at patreon.com/DTNS. This week, I explain why I think journalism is not in trouble, which apparently is controversial, and tech is not journalism's enemy. That's up right now at patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. If you want to catch us live, head to diamondclub.tv or alphageekradio.com, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC, Monday through Friday. We're also at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. I'm out tomorrow for BayCon. Scott Johnson will be filling in, joined by Andy Beach.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show. Johnson Hanks? What are we going to call it?
Somebody who will not make the first mini expansion, but might make the next one. Mark Zuckerberg giving the address at Harvard.
You mean his stump speech?
More and more like he's going to run for president.
I mean, honestly, I think that 2020 is going to be a free-for-all.
Oh, this has been my thought from.
Yeah. It's not a big thought that I'm having there. I get it.
As soon as Trump got out of the primary, I was like, at least 2 billionaires are going to run seriously, and quite possibly some just celebrities. Just because who knew that this was possible?
Do you remember? I know you were in Florida at the time, but do you remember the California recall of supplementary election where Gray Davis was recalled? And so they just opened the ballot to anybody who could get the number of signatures. And Gary Coleman was on there. Our video editor, Corb at ZDTV, was on there. Like, everybody was on that. That's what I'm imagining.
I mean, I'm just saying, you want to know why? And this is something that can kind of go a little bit further into the story about Apple News. But news is just hot right now. Like, we're in a very interesting moment in time, and people want to read and learn about it. Like, that's just the end all be all. I mean,
they want to read about it. I'm not sure they're really learning, but I get you. I get where you're going.
We could draw some distinction.
Putting too fine a point on it.
But somebody was, or I was talking to John, my co-creator on the Contender and Action News, and we were talking about this stuff that happened out in Montana last night. where there was a special election because Donald Trump tapped the sitting representative out there.
We need to pick a title too.
Oh,
Yes.
title.
So disposable numbers, a Samsung and Apple phone world buried under a pile of fidget spinners, knee high to grasshopper. Wake me up before you go, Goro.
Gogoro.
Isn't that a character from the Psychonauts game? You can't spell go without the first two letters of God. Dateline Apple, 1,000 newspapers in your pocket. I'm seeing through Snake.
What's
I don't know.
disposable numbers?
I don't know.
The Google stuff.
Uh-oh. Tom knows the answer, but he can't stop hacking.
The Google ad stuff.
Oh, disposable numbers. Wait, no, disposable numbers were disposable phone numbers. Remember the T-Mobile?
Yeah, that's it.
You're
Man,
right, Tom.
Stop
You need a
signaling
glass
that
of water.
by hacking his lung right out of his mouth.
No, really, you ask me a question when I'm in the middle like that? Oh my God.
Well, I didn't know. Sometimes it's just a few. It's like you cough once and then you pause and you feel a little bit and you're gonna be right back. Like I don't.
Man,
know.
that was the worst.
Did you
That
swallow
was
your
Just
tongue?
happened.
You're all red faced.
I got something down my pipes.
Fur ball. Hairball.
This is a hairball.
Buried under a pile of fidget spinners is leading the pack.
Yeah, that didn't really relate to anything. It was just kind of like a line.
Dateline Apple. MicroJustin.tv. Yogurt the Great, marketing genius.
I mean,
Yo.
we can pick anything. We got no like main
I
topic.
like disposable numbers, but that was a news story.
No, I like disposable numbers too. Just it just sounds good.
It can mean whatever you want it to mean.
I
It
know.
sounds like a Sandra Bullock actor from the 90s.
You mean like was
In
it
a
the
world.
net? Was it the net? Was that the one she was in?
Sure, yeah, exactly.
I always mix that one up with The Enemy of the State. With
No,
Will
but this
Smith.
is more in like disposable numbers would be like it would have come out like a year after The Firm or like one of those
The Pelican Brief.
yeah, one of those like lawyer, like accountant, like she thought that she was moving from her small town to the big city accounting firm, and then she has to meet-
And it's interesting because all those movies that center around
You
lawyers,
can't just throw us all away.
well, all those movies really just focus on I discovered a paper trail and it leads to you, and then you splice in the obligatory car chase, near death scenes.
You're nothing. You're zero. You're less than nothing. You're disposable numbers.
yeah. Andy Garcia stars as the evil.
Andy Garcia with nice pull.
So yeah, disposable numbers.
So
Disposable
you
numbers it is.
you can go back to your carnival of potential presidential candidates with billionaires, celebrities. I want to someone who was in the Cirque du Soleil, and then as part of their campaigning, they'll do like one of their old acts on the road.
Yeah. Well, the thing about where we're okay, we were talking about Montana, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you were, yeah.
It was. I was hijacking the conversation to talk about
Guy body slammed a reporter because he didn't like his question.
Yes.
All right.
Technically, the Fox News report indicates that it's a choke slam. I don't want to get into
Fair
the
enough. Fair enough. No, good correction. Choke slam.
choke slam. Which Kane, former WWE champion Kane, whose finishing move was the choke slam, has been in Republican politics for only 2 months, and people are already biting his moves. So the John was talking to me. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is insane. This is the craziest thing that's ever happened. It's like, people flame out embarrassingly at this level of politics constantly. Like people blow up. A lot of people that come into these things this is like the first stop for big league politics where you can you're being watched constantly. The fact that this race, a special election in Montana of all places, is getting the kind of attention that it is a real shock, and just shows you how much people are dialed in on politics. But the fact that somebody would be a boneheaded moron and choke slam a reporter for sticking a recorder in their face is also like kind of common. And really the only thing that you would say he should have done is let somebody else choke slam him, instead of and just look on instead of doing it yourself. So people are really dialed in on politics right now. Like it's what people want to read about. It's what people want to talk about.
It's the television drama that's happening in real time. It really does feel that way in the way, like if you were to have there are certain movies, especially ones surrounding politicians' elections, that they often use. Like in the movie world, they have like newscasters kind of set the stage for each act, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it feels. Like, this is act, I don't know, what are we, act 29 now or whatever. It's a long play. But it's very, there's something both abhorrent but incredibly addictive about this entire thing.
Well, because like all good stories, there are stakes. Right? Because this is really just the continuation of the election narrative, in that Donald Trump is found to be abhorrent by a large swath of America. He is found to be the savior of all by another swath that, by the numbers when everybody went to go vote, was slightly smaller. But yet he wins because of the Electoral College. And so now, why do we care about Montana? Why do we care about the Georgia 6? Why do we care about Wyoming? Because we want to know, both liberal and conservative, whether or not there is a wave election coming, not this November, but next November. A series of elections that will happen a year and a half from now is the reason why we are watching these elections. Oh,
yeah. I totally agree. I mean, it's interesting because everything now, at least in the kind of news cycle sense, is a litmus test of what the political tea leaves, will be reading for the midterms, right? So yeah. It's such a fascinating like piece of I mean, it's so sociologically, just like watching this, all these people just get so invested in all these things in a way that in prior years would have, maybe they would have.
Nobody. I mean, nerds like me, I care about it because I'm a nerd, but like nobody gives a rat's ass about it ever.
Oh, but they still don't.
No.
I mean, let's
you're
not
right.
fool ourselves. People aren't actually concerned with understanding politics. People are concerned with tuning into drama. And lots of people are taking advantage of that by feeding them a bunch of BS drama that they eagerly shove into their brains. And you're not actually getting any real understanding or analysis of what's really going on.
Do you want to know what I've just kind of pinned it to?
Your epiphany? Your post-show epiphany?
I've had an epiphany right here.
Yeah.
These elections are effectively the NFL draft.
Interesting.
There's a lot of pomp, a lot of circumstance. It might mean something. Yeah, we might look back a year and a half from now and say, yeah, you want to know what? That turned out to be a big sign of how something else happened a year and a half from when it occurred. But right now, let's say that Quist beats the choke slammer, right? Whose name is escaping me currently.
But when he goes into professional wrestling, that will likely be one of his.
Gian Forte, right?
Gian Forte.
Let's say he wins. What have we really learned? Aside from the fact that, the election was probably closer than it should have been, which meant that Quist was in striking distance. But is the lesson, hey, don't choke slam a reporter hours before the polls open? Cool. Add that one to the Wikipedia of things to not do when you're running for political office. And also, if he wins, what do we know? Well, a lot of people mail their ballots in because Montana's gigantic, and it doesn't always make sense to go to your local polling station in the same way that you would in a big city. So nobody saw this. He probably is going to win because of how many ballots have already been mailed in. And even afterward, he's probably not going to hurt them all that much because, number one, he's a Republican. It's Montana. This is just what happens. And two, I don't know exactly if you're going to list all the martyrs in the world, how much a local Montana resident is going to find the roughing up of a reporter for a British newspaper to be.
I'll be honest. I feel like we've already spent 10 times more time discussing this here, where we're not even being serious about it, than it needs to. Now imagine that compared to the amount of words and coverage being given to it on the news everywhere. It's become no different than celebrity gossip, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I
that
agree.
Substantive.
No, it's and you know what's sad is like what you're touching on earlier is like really there isn't any kind of deeper understanding of the actual issues. Rather, it is more about the personalities that orbit. Oh, sorry.
Well, for a long time, no need to be sorry. I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. Hey, there. I'm not sorry. It's a joke.
No, I think there must have been some lag because I thought you had paused.
Well, see there, the whole punchline is ruined.
Ruined.
No, but for a long time, television news particularly has spent most of its coverage telling you how what happened will affect its coverage, not actually getting into how what happened would affect anything else.
Yeah.
So it's just cyclical.
Shane asked, it does potentially show a trend toward violence against the press. No, I do not think that it is indicative of any kind of broader issue. Sometimes things get physical. Like that's just things get physical with handlers. Things get
Ask
physical.
Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened with her?
Let's get physical.
Oh,
She wrote a song about it.
Now this is beyond the pale, but the fact that this is being pointed out as beyond the pale, and I think it's appropriately being reacted to.
It's also sad that it's May the 25th, and we're not talking about the 40th anniversary of the premiere of Star Wars.
That's true. That's true. Do you see the Hamilton cast up there singing "Happy Birthday"?
Oh no, I didn't actually. That's pretty cool.
Is it on the YouTubes?
I saw it somewhere. I don't know if it's the cast of Hamilton that's playing right now in San Francisco. I think so. I don't know if it's like the original cast or anything.
No, so not Lin-Manuel.
It might have been him though, because he's a Star Wars freak.
Yeah, and he would show up to do that, I would think.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Thanks for hanging out. We love having you. Tomorrow, it'll be a whole new cast. It'll be like Hamilton in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson, Andy Beach. Len Peralta's probably going to be back. And sadly, I will miss him. But if you're going to be at BayCon in the Marriott at the San Francisco airport, come by and say hi. I'll be there all weekend. See you, folks.
Boom.
Bye.
We